Welcome back for another edition of Ask Father Silva, and today our question is more of a topical one, right? This being October is the month of the Holy Rosary, right? The feast day that we celebrate, Our Lady of the Rosary, previously known as Our Lady of Victory, is celebrated in the month of October, and so this month is also dedicated to the Rosary as a whole. And so I wanted to bring up and probably address some questions that you might have about the Rosary. Firstly, where does it come from? Well, the history of the Rosary is kind of one that's shrouded in a bit of mystery because we have a mix between private revelation, right? Namely, the fact that the Rosary was given to Saint Dominic, and part of his message in preaching with his order of the preachers, the Dominicans, was also spreading this great devotion of the Rosary. And part of it is sort of historical. It wasn't a definitive moment, again, other than the revelation of Our Lady to St. Dominic, but we saw a progression of those who would pray with prayer beads, right, starting with a progression of prayers of the Our Father to this Rosary that we have today, right? And so it's important to remember that there's so much that goes into the Rosary, again, its historicity as well as its divine importance as revealed to so very many saints over the course of our 2,000 years of history. And so the Rosary itself began not only as a devotion, but as a way in which the lay people could unite their prayers to those who were praying the divine office, right? The divine office are those 5 different times of prayer that priests, religious, monks, right, those in consecrated life make promises to pray every single day. They're called the 5 hours. Now, they don't typically take an hour, right, but those 5 different hours, the office of readings, morning prayer, daytime prayer, evening prayer, and night prayer, right? Those 5 different hours. If you pray all of these prayers, right, they pray through the whole of the Psalms, which is the basis of each one of those hours, praying the Psalms. And if you notice, the original mysteries of the Rosary were the glorious, the sorrowful, and the joyful, right? So how many Hail Marys do we pray during the Rosary, right? 50. So 50, 50, 50, that's 150. And how many Psalms are there? There's 150. So it was a way in which the peasant farmers, especially who were not literate at that point in time, right, could unite their prayers to those who were praying the Psalms. And so we see the development of the Rosary just on a historical, a cultural, a societal basis, again, as well as the revelation to Saint Dominic. And I think it's one of those great mysteries of the Church, but I think far more important than nailing down the history and the development of the Rosary is talking about its importance. And again, countless saints have talked about how important it is. Countless miracles have happened, right? Countless apparitions of Our Lady promoting the importance and the power of praying the Rosary, right? You have the revelation at Fatima, right? Telling the children at Fatima to pray the Rosary and to encourage the praying of the Rosary. You have someone like Padre Pio saying, like, this is the spiritual weapon, right? This is a sword that you place in your pocket, that you have on you at all times. And I think just on a natural level, right, praying the Rosary is one of those things that's often seen as this, right, it's boring because it's so repetitive. But most things in life that are worth doing are repetitive. How many of you get up at the same time, that you go to the same job, that you eat the same meals, right? You do these things, right? There's a consolation in our human hearts in repetition. No one here has ever said, right, my son, my daughter tells me that they love me too much. It's getting way too repetitive, right? And so we see repetition as a basis for human development as well, right? All of you parents raising your children, right? Repetition is the mother of all learning. And for ourselves, repetition is necessary, I think, especially when it comes to the Rosary and seeing the development of how important it is, right? At first, right, you may have to read the Apostles' Creed, you may have to read, right, the Salve Regina, right? You may have to read these prayers in order to memorize them. But once you pray the Rosary consistently, it's less so about these individual prayers and it's more about what it is you're praying about, right? So today's Friday, right, praying with the sorrowful mysteries, right? The agony in the garden, the scourging at the pillar, the crowning with thorns, the carrying of the cross, and the crucifixion and death of Jesus Christ, right? These prayers, right, these Hail Marys, less become about the Hail Marys and more it's like beads passing through your fingers, like sand passing through an hourglass. It becomes more so about a duration of time for which we're praying about these particular mysteries. And then once those beads have slipped through our fingers and we're on to the next decade, right, we begin a prayerful meditation wherever we're praying the Rosary about this next mystery, right? And so I think there's innumerable things that I could talk about when it comes to praying the Rosary, but the best thing that I could say is simply try it, right? And I would argue that if you're not praying the Rosary at all, right, don't just jump in, all right, I'm going to pray the full Rosary, right? We should want this to become a repetition. So start, right, I'm going to pray a decade of the day, right? Most of us have enough time to pray an Our Father, 10 Hail Marys, and a Glory Be each and every day, right? And then slowly progress, right? I think it's a great thing to pray when you're driving, right? If you need assistance, right, the Hallow app has someone reading. You can simply YouTube it. I'm sure you can find it on Spotify or Apple Music, what have you. There's innumerable ways to find people who can assist you in praying these prayers. And so, right, finding that time, go for a walk. If you exercise, right, it's a great time to just simply pray a walking Rosary, which is often how I pray it, or when I'm driving. But if you need other assistance, you want to look more into the Rosary, I can't recommend enough this book called Champions of the Rosary by Father Donald Calloway, right? This goes through, again, the history of the Rosary, but it also goes through, again, what saints have said about the Rosary, trying to put forth this great wisdom that we have seen throughout the ages on the importance and the efficacy of praying the Rosary. And if you're looking for a good Rosary, Father, I don't have one, right? I'd highly recommend a dear friend of mine, right? Their family makes what they call refuge rosaries, which you can find on Etsy. I want a strong, good-looking Rosary, right? And this thing has lasted me over many, many years. And so I highly recommend refuge rosaries on Etsy. But again, all right, jumping right into the Rosary. If you're only praying a decade of the day, God gave you a Rosary built into your body, right? You got 10 fingers right here. I can't tell you how many times I've been praying and just said, right, I can use my fingers to pray the Rosary. So, right, with all that in this month of the Rosary, I recommend that you, right, look into praying the Rosary, trying it out, right, making it a part of your daily routine, and who knows what sort of innumerable graces are in store for you. Hope that helps. God bless. Have a good week, and we'll see you again soon.